to start today with a specific kind of hallucination. It's,
Oh,
well, it's a collective hallucination we all participate in, probably weekly, maybe even daily.
that sounds incredibly ominous. I'm a little worried.
It's actually very mundane, which, almost makes it worse.
Huh.
Picture this. You're sitting in a conference room, the lights are dimmed, just enough to make you sleepy,
Mm.
not enough to actually nap.
Oh, I know this room.
Right. Someone is at the front, walking through a slide deck, and they are good. The slides are beautiful, the logic just flows like water. Point A leads to point B, which just inevitably leads to point C.
And you're sitting there nodding along.
Exactly. You're nodding, sipping that lukewarm coffee, and you're thinking, yes, this makes total sense. I completely get this. I'm following every single step.
It's such a satisfying feeling, though, that little click of clarity. You feel smart just for being there.
It is. It's like a dopamine hit. But here's the hallucination part. An hour later, the meeting's over. You go back to your desk to actually do the thing they were talking about.
Right. To apply it.
You sit down, open your laptop, and
Blank screen, blank mind.
complete evaporation. The clarity didn't just fade, it vanished. And you're just sitting there thinking, wait, I understood this perfectly 45 minutes ago. What happened?
That is such a universal experience. We have all been that learner, whether it's a corporate meeting, a lecture, or, let's be honest, watching a YouTube tutorial at 2 in the morning.
Ah, the tutorial hell. I have watched so many coding tutorials where I'm just nodding along for 20 minutes, feeling like a genius, and then I open the code editor and I can't even write the first line.
It is so frustrating. But today, we're going to validate that frustration. We're doing a deep dive into a text called How Understanding is Actually Built. And the headline here is that feeling of getting it. It's often a lie.
Or at least a very convincing illusion.
Right. The source material argues we have this fundamental misunderstanding of what understanding actually is. We tend to think of it as something we receive, like a package.
Someone just hands it to you.
But the core argument here is that understanding isn't received at all. It's constructed. And the reason you blank out is because, quite simply, you never actually built anything in your head.
So this is going to be a bit of a therapy session for anyone who has ever felt stupid after watching a really smart video. We're going to debunk that idea of transferring knowledge and look at why smooth explanations can actually be dangerous.
Exactly. It reframes the whole process. It shifts the blame from, your intelligence to the very structure of how we communicate.
So let's start with the illusion itself. Why do we feel like we get it when we so clearly don't? The text talks about a bridge.
The bridge metaphor. Yeah, this is how most of us view education. So imagine a canyon. On one side, you have ignorance, you don't know the thing. On the other side, knowledge.
Okay.
We intuitively believe that a good explanation is a bridge across that gap.
So the presenter is the bridge builder.
Exactly. And if they explain it clearly enough, if they build a really sturdy bridge, you can just walk right across it. And once you're on the other side, you have the knowledge.
It treats understanding like an object. I have it. I give it to you through my PowerPoint. Now you have it.
And this leads to what the source calls the transfer fallacy. We assume that if I can say something to you and you hear it, you recognize the words, that the transfer has happened. And the test for this is usually just repetition.
Right. Can you parrot it back to me?
Can you summarize my slides? If so, great, you learned it.
Which explains all the nodding in meetings. We're signaling package received. The transfer is working.
But this is where we get fooled. The text identifies a few reasons why, and the first one is just smoothness.
I love this one because it feels so wrong. We always think a smooth explanation is a good thing.
And for communication, it is. But for learning, it's actually dangerous. Think about that slide deck again. A really skilled presenter, they remove all the friction. Each slide perfectly sets up the next one. It feels like progress. Your brain is moving along this pre-built track without any struggle at all.
It's like watching a professional athlete. You see them do something complex and it looks so easy.
Exactly. And because it looks effortless, you think, oh, that seems easy. I could probably do that. You confuse the smoothness of their performance with your own capability.
So they're doing all the cognitive heavy lifting for you.
Precisely. They've done the work of organizing, connecting, simplifying. You're just gliding on their effort. And your brain mistakes that lack of struggle for presence of understanding.
Then there's familiarity. That's a huge trap for me.
The jargon trap. So an explanation uses words you already know. If I'm explaining some complex economic concept, but I use words like supply, demand, market.
Your brain just lights up. I know those words. I'm safe. I get this.
It's a false sense of security. You recognize the ingredients, so you assume you know the recipe.
And the source mentions reduced uncertainty, which is more of an emotional thing.
Totally. Before the explanation, you feel a little tension, you have questions, the explanation provides answers, and just having an answer provides this sense of relief.
And we mistake that emotional relief for actual intellectual depth. I feel better, so I must be smarter.
And then there's the whole social side. We are trained from a young age to nod.
The boardroom survival instinct.
It is. In a meeting, silence is risky. Confusion looks like weakness. But if you can repeat a key phrase, you get a smile. You get a good job. We learn to mimic fluency.
Okay, but this next concept, this is the one that really blew my mind. It's called borrowed structure.
This is the absolute key insight of the entire piece. When you are listening to someone explain something, you aren't using your own mental organization. You are, quite literally, borrowing theirs.
Borrowing their brain.
In a sense, yeah. The speaker has done all the hard work. They've arranged the ideas, connected the dots. While they're talking, you're just inhabiting that structure. It feels internal.
It's like being a passenger in a car. The driver knows exactly where they're going, and because I'm in the car, I feel like I know where I'm going too.
That's a perfect analogy. You feel the momentum, you see the scenery, but, and here's the kicker, the moment they stop talking,
The structure vanishes.
they take the car with them, and you're left standing on the side of the road with no idea where you are. Because you only ever rented the structure. You never built it.
That perfectly explains the blank mind phenomenon. I was just surfing their wave, and when the wave crashed, I sank.
And this leads us to where explanation actually breaks down. The text makes a crucial point. The breakdown never happens during the listening. It happens during the use.
Right. It's fine when I listen. It fails when I have to act.
The source contrasts sequence versus relation. An explanation is linear. It's a sequence. First A, then B, then C. You can follow that sequence perfectly without understanding how A, B, and C actually relate to each other in a network.
It's like following GPS directions. Turn left in 200 feet. I can get there, but I haven't actually learned the route. If the GPS turns off, I'm completely lost.
You followed the sequence, but you didn't build the map. And this is so obvious when we hit the context trap. Explanation-based knowledge is incredibly fragile. If the surface details change even a little bit, it all just dissolves.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Think about a spreadsheet tutorial. It says, click the data tab, then click text to columns, then check this box. You memorize that sequence, you feel like you get it,
I could repeat those steps. I'm a pro now.
but then you open a different spreadsheet. The data's in rows, not columns. Or the button has moved. Suddenly you're paralyzed. You can't apply it because you only memorized the specific sequence. You didn't understand why you were clicking that box.
That hits home. And the text mentions something paradoxical here too. This idea of complexity versus compression.
Right. Explanations often add complexity to help you. They add examples, analogies, more words, but true understanding is actually about compression.
Unpack that for me. How is understanding smaller than the explanation?
Think about a master chess player. When they look at a board, they don't see 32 individual pieces. They see the Sicilian defense. They compress all that data into one single chunk.
So the explanation takes 10 minutes, but the understanding is a split-second recognition.
Exactly. If you have to talk yourself through it with 1,000 words, you're still relying on the explanation. You haven't compressed it yet. True understanding is efficient.
The source also talks about hidden gaps. A good teacher smooths over the confusing parts before you even feel the bump.
And they're sort of killing you with kindness. Confusion is a signal. It's your brain hitting a boundary. If the explanation protects you from that, it prevents your mind from grappling with what it doesn't know.
So we're being coddled. The smooth explanation prevents the struggle we need to actually learn.
Yes, you need traction to move forward, and traction requires friction.
Okay, so we've torn down the illusion. We know that nodding along is an understanding. So
Yeah.
Let's pivot. What does actual understanding look like? If it's not receiving a package, what is it?
The source defines it as construction. It's something your brain builds. It's not a list of facts. It's a network of relations. And the text outlines 4 shifts that happen when you move from explanation to real understanding.
I like these because they're like a checklist. You can ask yourself, am I doing this? Let's start with the first one. Connections over details.
This means you stop tracking every specific example and start tracking the pattern underneath. When you first learn a language, you're obsessed with details, specific phrases.
Where's the bathroom?
Right. But as you get fluent, those specific phrases matter less Then the grammar, the connection logic. You stop memorizing the what and start seeing the how.
So instead of memorizing 10 math problems, you get the one formula that solves them all.
Correct. You see the underlying shape. The second shift is the one we touched on, compression.
It gets lighter in your head.
It requires less mental effort to hold.
Mhm.
You aren't juggling 50 facts anymore. You're holding one structure that contains them.
Okay, the third shift is my favorite. Expectations and surprise. This feels like the ultimate test.
It really is. The source argues that if you understand a system, you have expectations about what it will do. And if it does something else, you feel surprised.
That makes so much sense. If I don't get how my car engine works and it makes a weird noise, I'm not surprised. I'm just annoyed. But a mechanic is shocked.
Because the mechanic has a mental model. They have a structure that predicts smooth hum. The clunk violates that prediction. Without understanding, nothing is surprising because you didn't predict anything in the first place.
So surprise is proof that you had a structure that got violated. I love that.
Exactly. And the fourth shift is generative retrieval.
Generative. Sounds fancy.
It just means you stop using memory and start using reasoning. Instead of trying to recall what the teacher said, you reconstruct what must be true.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's stick with math. If I ask you, what's 5 times 5? You just say 25. You pulled it from a file cabinet. That's recall.
Right.
But if I ask you, what's 14 times 13? No, you probably don't have a file for that. But you understand the structure of multiplication. So you can say, well, 14 times 10 is 140, 14 times 3 is 42, add them, 182. You generated the answer.
You didn't retrieve it. You built it on the spot. So understanding lets you fill in the gaps.
Yes. And the text really emphasizes that this whole process is quiet.
That was a surprising point for me. We always think of the eureka moment, the light bulb.
But real learning is rarely that dramatic. It's a slow, uneven reduction in mental strain. The question shifts from, what does this mean, to, okay, what follows from this? It's not a lightning bolt. The fog just gradually lifts.
So the source material wraps all this up with a unifying mental model. It's a theory called internal constraint.
This is the heavy hitter concept. Understanding equals internal constraint.
Constraint usually sounds negative, though, like I'm being held back.
But in this context, it's incredibly positive. Think about it. Before you understand something, your mind is unconstrained.
Yeah.
Anything seems plausible. If you don't understand physics, a rock floating seems just as likely as a rock sinking.
So I need external guides, teachers, books to keep me on the rails.
Exactly. You're dependent on them. But as you build understanding, you build internal constraints. Your knowledge automatically rules out incorrect ideas. You don't even have to think about the rock floating. Your mind just rejects it instantly.
So thought is guided from within. An expert isn't someone who knows more facts. They're someone who can ignore wrong answers faster.
That's it. And this leads to the central metaphor of the entire text, the difference between paths and terrain.
This is the image I want everyone to really visualize.
Explanation is a path. Someone gives you a specific route through the woods. Walk 10 steps, turn left at the big oak tree.
And as long as the path is clear, I'm fine.
You can follow it, but you don't know the land. Understanding, on the other hand, is building the terrain. You have a mental map of the landscape. You know where the hills are, where the river dens.
And here's the application, right?
Uh.
This explains why transfer is so hard.
Exactly. If you only have a path and explanation and a tree falls across it, what happens?
I'm stuck. I don't know where I am. I don't know how to go around. I panic.
You are paralyzed. But if you know the terrain, if you have understanding, and a tree falls,
I just walk around it. I know the rivers to the east, the ridges to the west. I can find a new way.
you navigate. That's the difference. The person nodding in the meeting is following the path. The person who can do the work the next day has mapped the terrain.
Which means the goal isn't to collect paths. It's to map the terrain. And that is so much harder.
Much harder. To map the terrain, you have to leave the path. You have to walk into the bushes, get lost, find dead ends. That's the confusion and struggle we were talking about.
This really changes how I view confusion. I usually see it as a failure signal. Oh no, I'm not getting it.
But in the terrain model, confusion is just the sensation of mapping new territory. It's the necessary work. If you aren't confused, you're probably just walking on a paved road someone else built for you.
So practically, for the listener, how do we stop being fooled? How do we stop being pathwalkers?
I think the first step is to be suspicious of smoothness. That's the biggest warning sign. If a lecture or a video feels too easy, if you're just nodding along with zero friction, You have to force a friction event.
A friction event. What's that look like?
Stop consuming. Pause the video, close the book, and ask yourself, can I reconstruct this argument from scratch?
Not just repeat their words, but rebuild the logic.
Exactly. Try to explain it to an empty room. You will immediately find the gaps. You'll hit a point where you say, wait, how did step B lead to step C again? That gap, that's where the real learning happens.
That's the moment you step off the path and start mapping.
You have to actively destroy the borrowed structure to see if you have any of your own.
It's humbling, though. It means realizing you know a lot less than you think you do.
It is. But the reward is agency. When you have the terrain, you're no longer dependent on the guide. You can solve problems the tutorial never even covered.
I think that's a perfect place to land. We started by asking why we forget things we thought we knew. And the answer is we. We never really knew them. We just recognized the path.
We were enjoying the view, but we weren't checking the compass.
Before we go, there's one last thought from the source material I want to leave everyone with. The text says, understanding is not knowledge. Understanding is shape.
It's a condition of the system where thought can move without being led.
So the question for you today is, are you just collecting lists? Or are you building shapes in your mind that let you move freely? Something to think about the next time you're nodding along in a meeting. Thanks for diving in with us.
It was a pleasure.
See you next time.